Okay, we are going to jump right in and get started with monitoring. This will likely take the entire hour, and so I want to be mindful of everyone's time. The first 3 slides that I have prepared for you today have a lot of language on them. Sorry, I'm just trying to control my menu up here. Okay. So there's a lot of words on here, and I'm not going to go ahead and read them word for word, but I wanted you to really get a good sense of where this monitoring requirement comes from. The monitoring requirement for the Minnesota Dual Training Grant is not a requirement that the Office of Higher Ed or the Department of Labor and Industry came up with. It actually comes from the Minnesota Department of Administration's Office of Grants Management. So this is an office that actually oversees grants for the entire state of Minnesota. So whether you have a grant with us through dual training or maybe a grant through another agency, this process should look very similar and have the same types of criteria throughout the process. So I wanted you really to see the exact language that we are given from the Office of Grants Management to know that this is a requirement that we must follow through on. With this first slide, the largest thing that you really need to know is that any grantee who has a grant contract over the $50,000 mark must do monitoring. We are happy to do monitoring for someone else who's under this threshold by request. We've not had a request before, but we're always happy to do this if you would like it to be done. But really that $50,000 threshold is the thing that triggers monitoring. With the grant monitoring visit, the Office of Grants Management highly encourages the agencies to meet with the grantees face-to-face. Before last year, so kind of that January timeframe, we were still meeting with our grantees face-to-face for monitoring. Then in February, that quickly changed. And moving forward, we will be doing all items virtual until there is a time that is safe to have monitoring visits again face-to-face. But just know that the Office of Grants Management really did encourage that they be face-to-face because there's a lot to learn and you can really go into very in-depth details with a grantee when you're there, when you're able to see where the on-the-job training is being done, the exact tasks that their employees are doing, and you can go ahead and talk with the employees and find out, and they can even demonstrate and show some of the on-the-job training that they've been able to do and how they're learning and their related instruction. So those on-site visits were very beneficial, but we will make the best of it in our virtual environment. And if you have any creative ways or layers that you'd like to add to the monitoring visit with us to really give us more of that in-depth perspective, that would be wonderful. We are always open to suggestions and ideas on how to make this virtual monitoring visit more beneficial to both of us. Financial reconciliation. I'm going to bring this up. It's very different for the dual training grant, but I want to bring it up because if you are reading through the Office of Grants Management's documents, you will see this requirement in there and it might get you asking some questions. For financial reconciliation, for most grants and grantees outside of the dual training grant, this is going to look a lot more like an audit. I've been to a fair amount of trainings with the Office of Grants Management for financial reconciliation. I was given a very large packet and we spent hours going through time cards of employees down to every line item where they were spending their time. We went through project budgets and, down to ordering paper and making sure that the state of Minnesota funds were being utilized at those grantees for their intended purpose. With the dual training grant, during monitoring, this is extremely different. As you know, our grant is a reimbursement process. So every dollar that comes out of this grant to reimburse you, we already know where your dollars were spent. We collect all of that information during the invoicing. We know the schedules of your employees. We know all of the bills that were invoices and bills that were exchanged. And so we don't need to go into detail during the monitoring visit for this. We're going to keep it very high level. What was your contract amount? How much have we paid out so far? And what's the balance? We're going to make sure that those numbers match, and we're going to move forward. So this is very high level, but I wanted to make sure I drew your attention to it, just in case you are reading through more materials and had some questions. The purpose of monitoring, we really come from the perspective of this is educational. This is a learning process. I love when we were able to attend the face-to-face monitoring visits, and Dan from the Department of Labor and Industry would always start off the meeting by saying, this is not an audit, function. We are here to help learn and provide you with resources. And it always kind of alleviated the initial stress of these monitoring visits, which was great. But we are coming into this as we want to gather feedback from you. How is your dual training model working? We want to be able to provide resources. We may know of some other grant opportunities for you. We might know of some workforce training that's available in your area. We also want to provide connections. Often we connect grantees with other grantees who are in similar positions, have similar questions, and we connect them so they can benefit and learn from one another. We want to hear your suggestions. We gather a lot of information from you, and we actually take your ideas and make them happen. So we want to hear how we can make these programs better. Navigate changes. 2020 has definitely been a year of changes. And we have helped to navigate those with our grantees. I am beyond impressed with our grantees during this year. They've been navigating so many changes, whether it's with their actual employees, their physical locations, and they've been able to keep us updated about those changes. And we've been able to brainstorm with each other on how we can make those changes be flexible and work well so their dual training model is still successful. And then we want to identify challenges and acknowledge best practices. So is there things that you're struggling with that we can help? Do you have best practices that would be great for others to know about? So again, this is really coming from a place of learning. We want to understand what's happening and really learn from one another. The monitoring timeline. Right now, November, we are doing this workshop. And then in December, you are going to receive an official notice. This will be in early December. It will be via email with all of the necessary attachments and dates and all those great details that you will need. But that's when you're going to get the official notice saying, hey, we are now in the monitoring period, and this is what we need you to complete. In January, that is when you are going to submit all of the required documents that we need for monitoring. It'll be later in January. We usually try to give our grantees a good 30 to 45 days to fill out their forms. And then in January to April is really the time frame that we're going to do the monitoring visits. So we're going to have 1-hour meetings with you. And I am going to finalize the monitoring report for you to review and go over. Each grantee is really different in that January to April timeframe. We have some grantees, they receive their official notice, let's say the first week in December. By the second week, they have all their forms filled out. And by the third week, they already want to be meeting because they want everything wrapped up before the holiday season or maybe before a busy scheduling season that they have. And then others, they get everything to us the last day in January that it's due. And then they say, we need to have that monitoring visit pushed out to April. And it really depends on your dual training program, what works best for you as a company and what works best for your trainees to provide really concrete feedback to us. So it can look different for each of you, but in general, we do want to make sure everything is wrapped up no later than the end of April, because May is a very busy month for our agencies to be doing the next grant round application. Okay, the next 2 slides are about the form you need to fill out and the actual monitoring visit. I have examples of these that we will go through in a lot more detail. In general, in December, you're going to receive a monitoring form. It's a fillable PDF form. You should not need to print this out. You should easily be able to fill it out on your computer. If you want to print it out, that's absolutely fine, and you can always scan and email it back to us, but just know that you should be able to type everything in here. The form does have electronic signatures, and the electronic signatures are on the first page. Please leave the electronic signatures for the very end. So fill out the whole form and do your signatures last. It helps with being able to edit the form and save the form. So just do signatures last. The two signatures, I'll kind of define what the difference is between them. So the grantee representative, that's the first signature. This is the person that oversees the grant for your company. They're the ones who know it inside and out. They know the trainees, they know all of the OJT. They're the ones who are working with me on invoicing. So they're like your main person administering the grant. Then the authorized representative, it may be the same person. That absolutely happens. But sometimes the authorized representative is a different individual who has a higher authority to sign contracts. And the authorized representative should be the one who signed the contract. And so we want to make sure that even though that person may not work with the grant on a daily basis, on a regular basis, that they understand and know what's happening with monitoring and know what is being submitted to our agency. So we want to make sure they also sign off. I will send along directions for the electronic signature process in case you do not already have like an established Adobe signature. So it's very easy to set up. If you have problems with the signatures, again, you are welcome to print and sign this. That is absolutely fine. We just wanted to make it a little bit easier for people to do electronically. In the responses on the form, you can respond to the questions with a few sentences or a few paragraphs. Really depends on your program and the stage that you are in on your program. And then all these documents come directly back to me, and you just send them via email. All right, the monitoring visit. Who really needs to be at this monitoring visit? That is a question I get immediately after sending the notice email. Who needs to be there? The grantee representative, that person who's doing that regular grant administration, must attend. Is really important. They know everything about this program, so we want to make sure that they are there. The authorized representative is, if this is a different individual, they may attend. They're more than welcome to attend, but they don't have to. If it is a different individual, it's a little bit more rare that they attend, but again, very welcome. And then dual trainee. This one, we really want to talk one-on-one with a dual trainee that's in your program, at least one. Sometimes a grantee is able to kind of get a group, like maybe 3 or 4 of them together. So we highly recommend that you give us an opportunity to talk with a dual trainee. We'd like and prefer that we schedule a separate meeting with them, only 15 to 20 minutes. We would not take much time from them. And if you did have, 2 or 3 individuals that can meet at the same time, and we could do it all at once, that would be great. We learn a lot from dual trainees, especially when they're one-on-one. And that does not mean that dual trainees speak negatively about programs because they're one-on-one with us. They just are a bit more candid in their responses, and they feel more comfortable to let us know about some suggestions and things that are working well. And so we really do appreciate that time we're able to have with them one-on-one. If that's not feasible and they need to meet with us as a whole group, that is fine too. And then if for some reason you can't get any dual trainees to be able to participate in the process, we definitely understand. The related instruction training providers, they're encouraged to attend. We encourage them to attend. It'd be great if they could be in the meeting. It adds an extra layer. It helps build the partnership. And we'd love for them to be there to see what is happening. They usually meet with us as a whole group. So we have everybody, the grantee, the training provider, the state agencies all together in one room. If for any reason you'd like us to schedule a training provider visit separate, we are happy to do that as well. But usually they're just in the main group with all of us. And then the state agency. So the Office of Higher Education must attend. The Department of Labor and Industry is highly encouraged to attend, and they usually always do. I've probably in the last 4 years only done like a handful without my partners at the Department of Labor and Industry, so they're usually always there. Where this is going to happen. As I said earlier, everything's virtual. Very, very likely, I will be setting up your meeting via WebEx. There might be some situations that we change to like a Microsoft Teams setting or whatnot, but WebEx should be the platform that we're using, and I will set all of that up for you. And when this should be just a 1 hour meeting, again, that January to April timeframe, and you let us know what works for you. So we're not going to go and schedule this and just say this is your time slot and you need to attend. You're going to let us know a few dates that work well, and then we're going to coordinate all of our schedules and make sure we can make that work for you. Okay. One of the really big discussions that we have during monitoring is on-the-job training. On-the-job training is a huge part of the dual training model. And so we want to make sure that during monitoring, we talk about this and see how things are going for you. Therefore, I'm going to turn it over now to my colleagues over the Department of Labor and Industry, and they're going to let us know what you can anticipate for that on-the-job training discussion.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. Let's see, I guess I can start my video too. So we are looking for whatever you as an employer are requiring your trainees to be doing it for on-the-job training. And granted, it's probably something you have been doing all along for years, probably, but it's really helpful for us to see and hear what are you do you have a mentor or a coach who is mentoring your trainee? If so, how do you determine who you who you choose? Has a lot of thought gone into it? Were they given any type of training in preparation for that for that job? And then we are really looking for successes and challenges that we can maybe help you with, or successes that we can know about so that, maybe we'll suggest those to other employers because it's working well for you. Again, this is not anything detrimental. I mean, we really, really learn so much from this. And a lot of times it's really helpful for us when we meet with the dual trainees because they can they can even give us more information than a lot of times you have as far as the successes because they're the actual person. So the expectations that we're looking for is that you are progressing in your on-the-job training. And if you have not started, if the trainees haven't started yet, because sometimes they start mid-year or whatever, just so that what the on-the-job training will be, what will be happening, and who will be leading that training, and then just open communication for everyone. Again, we just want to, we're here to help, and whatever challenges you're having, we'd really like to know about those because the sooner we know about everything, the better it is for everyone. So we can help in any way possible. And okay, so obviously the challenges of 2020 are probably going to spill over into 2021 for a while anyway. So the COVID-19 pandemic might factor into that. So that's an obvious one. Also, a lot of just, kind of basic, having a difficult time fitting OJT into people's schedules. Is that a problem? Having a difficult time with the coaches or the supervisors or the mentors, and why is that? And then the next one I would say is, sometimes we do run into this, is aligning the OJT with the academic curriculum. And again, these monitoring visits can be super helpful for that too, because hopefully we'll have someone from the institution of education that you're working with, and that might lead to some further discussion on the curriculum and how to pair that a little bit better for the future. So, and just so you know, Dan, maybe you want to jump in here and tell them how we can help.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen. So I mean, above all, we're here. I know we're in this crazy COVID time, and but we are still very much available, and so reach out, send Kathleen or Catherine or I an email, or or let Jacqueline know, and she can connect you to us too. And so we're here to help. We're also here to connect you with others who can help. So quite often, other employers have probably experienced something that maybe you're going through. And so if it's helpful to, get you connected with another employer who might be willing to share their story, we're happy to do that. We will make that connection with the schools if need be, and sometimes we'll even help if there's an issue or a problem, or if you're getting stuck. We can do that too. And then also, on our website, it's on the PowerPoint there. We've got a whole section on, tips and tricks on the job training. Most likely, you're going to primarily be doing job shadowing and mentorship, but you might have some assignment based on the job training. You might have some discussion based, some cohort based. So it's important to sort of think that stuff through. And then if you're interested in tracking any of the work that you're doing, you don't have to use our spreadsheets. It's not required by the grant, but many people find them to be helpful. And so, if that's something you are interested in doing, that's on our website as well. I think I'll turn it back to Jacqueline. Thanks, Jacqueline, for having us.
Thank you, Kathleen and Dan. So as I was saying earlier, we do like to have a lot of discussion about on-the-job training. Usually when it's face-to-face, we can actually see what's happening with on-the-job training. But really, we want to make sure we just have a really rich conversation about that to make sure you are heading in the right direction and that everything is going well. We are now going to go into the monitoring examples. So I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint and I'm going to actually bring up the PDF examples that I have. You should have received these also in your email, so you actually have hard copies. And I'll be posting them online to be available for everyone. But this would be a really great time. If you do have questions right now, you could go ahead, unmute yourself to ask your question. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, Jacqueline, Dave from Agar. Where are those hard copies that you said, the examples that you sent?
They should have been sent in the email to you on Thursday, would be the hard copies, but I will be posting them online and they should be posted by the end of this week.
Jacqueline, Amanda with Keeler. So you said the signature can be the same person. I just want to confirm that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. If you're the grantee representative and you also sign the contract, absolutely, it can be the same person. That is not a problem.
Perfect, thanks.
Jacqueline, this is Kathleen. I see that there is a question from Rebecca. Any ideas for recruiting people? We have had no one apply. And, I can kind of start that with, we have, dealt with a lot of employers who have had that same situation. And I would say, and maybe some of the other employers on can give some ideas, but I know that a number of our employers that are in healthcare, for example, literally put up signs around the facilities and ask, is there anyone interested in going to school to become whatever, or anyone want to talk about possible career opportunities here? We would love to talk with you about this. Also meeting with supervisors to see if they have any ideas. Many times they have good ideas as far as picking and choosing who might be a good a good person to ask if they want to upskill and have the potential for earning more money, et cetera. Those are just some of the ideas. Anyone on the call, or Jacqueline, if you want to talk to about that.
I think that, hi, this is Becky. I think our biggest issue that we run into is that our grant was specific to high school graduates, and that's causing the problem. I've had a lot of people reach out saying, "Hey, I'm interested. I'm in this program. I want it," and then it goes to, "Yeah, you graduated like a long time ago, so that's not going to help us." So it doesn't pertain. So that's our biggest struggle right now, is that we don't have a high schooler or a fresh graduate for that. And we have done all of, talking to the schools. I'm like, "You got anybody in mind? Send them my way. I can even talk to them." And it's just, we had a couple potential people here but didn't end up staying here. So.
Okay. Yeah, that is a different can of worms there.
Becky, we had a little bit of luck. Rather than just going through like the counselor route, I asked for a list of the academic sponsors for National Honor Society and some of the groups that tend to have more engaged students. And so we were able to pick up a couple of people that route. One of them ultimately decided to go to a school elsewhere, but we've got one now, and then we're looking to do that same thing rolling into the next academic year after graduation.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And occasionally, you might find the right kind of athletic coach, but I've found that student council, yearbook, NHS are usually the best sponsors, where I get the most suggestions, I guess, back.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And then your college might even have some too, where you're like, "Hey, can you give me the people who came in on academic scholarship?" Because even though they would have just graduated, so they should still be within that window. So your college partner may be somebody who can give you a short list too.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Okay, we will start going over the examples. If you have questions as we go and you don't want to forget them, go ahead, put them in the chat. We'll make sure we get to them. Otherwise, I will allow more time for questions as we go through. So this first document is the actual form that you'll fill out. So you'll get this in early December, and this is the part where we really want you to just take some time and fill it out. This example that I have put together is based off a real monitoring example. I did slightly, of course, everything identifiable was removed, but then I did slightly edit or tweak things here and there to make sure it was clear. But in general, you can look at this example and get a really good idea or feel of what might be expected as you complete the form. This particular example we're going to be working off of, the grantee is named Community Health Organization, and they have community health worker employees, and so that's the occupation under healthcare services. The very top of the form, you go ahead and complete the general information like address. Down here, we need to know if you have multiple locations. So if you are an employer, let's say you're an employer, you have your main hub at one place in Minnesota, but you actually have your dual trainees at different locations in Minnesota, we want you to list out those different locations so we can look at them, and they should all be in Minnesota. This particular example with Community Health Organization, they are actually an organization that has their own employees, and then they also apply on behalf of a few other employers in the area. So their grant actually has multiple employers. And so they went ahead and listed out the 2 additional employers that they support the grant with. So this example is a little bit unique, but it helps kind of cover all those different possibilities. All right, here's those electronic signatures. I just have mine on here because that's what was set up when I was doing the example. But again, it should be your grantee representative and your authorized representative. If it's the same person, that's absolutely fine. Please leave the signatures till the end. We want to make sure that you can fully edit the document and move about it and save it without any issues. And at the very end, go ahead and sign it. And if the authorized representative is someone else, it might be better if they look it all over, they're good with it, they sign, then you sign at the very end before submitting. I am going to go through these questions so you have a good idea. These aren't going to change. This is exactly what you can anticipate when you get the form. We want to know about the progress of the dual training grant. So that's the first couple questions. What progress are dual trainees making toward related instruction and on-the-job training? This can be very high level. Community health organization, they went ahead and they actually kind of broke it down, like how many credits and the first semester of classes, the second semester of classes. And then in the last paragraph, they gave us an idea of on-the-job training that they've been working towards. For one of their courses called Advocacy and Outreach, they actually paired up an on-the-job training task of having their dual trainees create an advocacy and outreach plan for their organization. And they have their supervisors review it and provide feedback, and we're given time to update those plans. And those plans may be used in real life for the organization, or it may just be a task to help them practice. But they did include a good concrete example of on-the-job training that they've been working toward. Very high level, just want to know how things are progressing. How are you continuing to develop the dual training program? Is the dual training model sustainable? Very often, grantees are new to documenting dual training models. Even if they've done the model for a while, they're new to documenting it. And so they're creating new forms and new procedures and new tracking mechanisms. We want to know about that. So how is your program developing? And then do you think it's sustainable? Do you think that you can see this program in your future for your organization? Do you plan to participate in a future dual training grant? If so, explain. If you don't plan to participate, do you plan to at least continue with a dual training model? This particular grantee actually had a 2-year program, and so they did plan to continue for the following year to make sure that their employees had their second year of programming. This is just one sentence, right? I said it could just be a couple sentences, a couple paragraphs, whatever works well for you. We're not going to go through this and read it and say, oh, they only answered one sentence. We need more or whatnot. So if we have questions, we'll ask, but if one sentence answers the question well and pertains to your program, that's fine. Then we want to know about outcomes. How has the dual training program and dual training grant benefited your organization? Really, what has changed? Have you seen the benefits already within your organization? So this grantee went ahead and they talked about how this funding is really important, because for some of the partner employers that they partnered with that are small and nonprofits, it wouldn't be feasible to go through a community health worker program, that this funding really makes it happen. And they also need to make sure that this certificate is obtained by these employees, because they need to have the adequate skills to work within their communities. You can go ahead and answer and let us know how it's benefiting you. How has the dual training program and dual training grant been used to recruit and retain employees? Some of our grantees do not use this as recruiting. They really focus on their income net workers, retaining their employees. That works. Others use this very heavily in recruiting. All of their dual trainees that come in are brand new hires. Let us know how this is going with both the recruitment and retainment. If you've been tracking your retainment numbers, that would be wonderful to know. We have reached out to some grantees who do a lot of extensive tracking, and we've been able to put some of that information into our reports. So the Minnesota legislature has some concrete examples of what those numbers actually are looking like. And you're the one who's going to have that kind of information, because we don't, typically follow up 2, 3, 4 years down the road to see if these employees are still with you. So if you've got some numbers, that would be wonderful. But let us know how our recruiting and retaining is going. What feedback are you receiving from dual trainees about the dual training program and dual training grant? What are their perspectives about the related instruction and on-the-job training? For this section, there's a couple ways you can go about it. We really want the feedback from your dual trainees, like the direct quotes out of their mouth, out of their emails. So you could either go ahead and reach out to some dual trainees, gather that feedback. You could drop it directly into this form if it's not too lengthy, because we only allow about a half a page on this form for you to fill out, and then the font will start getting smaller and smaller. Usually what our grantees will do is they'll go ahead and they'll attach a separate document. They'll sometimes just attach a couple emails they've received back from dual trainees. Some actually write up a little bit more formal statements their dual trainees do, and so they'll go ahead and attach those. But we do want to make sure we get some feedback from your dual trainees. And then if you actually are attaching separate documents from them, you can go ahead in here and just write a very high level summary about how it's going and just the general feedback that you're getting from your trainees. Challenges. What have been the greatest challenges of administering a dual training program and dual training grant? This particular grantee brought to our attention that a big challenge has been administering the program among multiple employers and making sure that that communication is clear and timely. And so that has been one of their challenges. And they also did talk about their solutions for that and their future plans to make that communication stronger and more clear. What modifications to program requirements should the state of Minnesota consider for a dual training program and dual training grant? This is where we want you to think more upon like the state of Minnesota statute, legislative type of level. We want to know, is there something about this program that could be taken away, that could be added, that could be just modified? What could change to make the dual training program and grant stronger for employers to administer for their employees? So let us know what your thoughts are. What training and or technical assistance do you and dual trainees need from the Office of Higher Ed and Department of Labor and Industry to sustain and improve your dual training program and dual training grant? This grantee said at this point that it's going well and just to continue the partnership and communication. If there's training and technical assistance that you think you would need or benefit, or other grantees would benefit from it, please let us know. The workshop we are doing right now at this very second came from this section on monitoring reports. Last year, several of the grantees put into their monitoring reports, it would be great if the Office of Higher Ed and Department of Labor and Industry could just have small, really short workshops to remind us of things, to remind us, how do we do the reimbursement again? How do we update the work plan? What to anticipate during this monitoring visit? This is actually the very first year that we're doing these workshops, and it's all because of these monitoring reports and the feedback that we got from grantees saying, we want an extra hour just to refresh. Best practices. What are best practices for administering a dual training program and dual training grant? So let us know. What are those things that are working really great and others should know about? What program requirements are working well that the state of Minnesota should maintain for a dual training program and dual training grant? Just like the previous question about modifications, we want to know what's working well. What are parts of this program that you really appreciate as an employer, for your employees, for your region, the workforce, that are working great, and you want to make sure that we know that, and so we can keep advocating that it stays in place. And then additional topics, anything that you want to go ahead and talk about. This grantee did want to make sure that they brought up COVID-19 and how that's impacted their organization. And they also wanted to let us know about the virtual tools that they've created to help connect their employees with the community. So any type of topic, anything you want us to know, you can go ahead and enter into there. This monitoring report, you go ahead and submit it in that January timeframe, and myself and the Department of Labor and Industry will review it. I send it to the consultant who oversees your industry. So Dan with Advanced Manufacturing and Agriculture, or Kathleen with Healthcare Services and Information Technology. And we both go through the report. We read everything, we make notes, jot down questions and highlight sections. And we use this document to guide our discussion during our visit. So that 1 hour visit we have is really going to be pulling from this. So we're going to be asking some more details on things, or we'll have questions or ask for specific examples. So what you write in here is going to really guide our conversation. And then after our monitoring visit's complete, I go ahead and I write up a report. This report, I will send it over to you after it's complete, and you can let me know if there is an edit or a suggestion or a question on there. It doesn't happen often, but once in a while, I might misunderstand something, or I might have worded it not in the right way in how you meant. And so therefore, we want to make sure we get that edited and want to make sure everything is accurate from our visit and from the form you filled out. So please do look over it. Let me know if there's something you have questions about or would like to suggest an edit. This monitoring report document, it is a public document. How we kind of use this document is we make sure you have a copy, we have a copy, we keep it on file. And if ever another agency wanted to look at it to see how monitoring was going for a particular grantee, we would go ahead and share it. We have not yet had an agency ask for a specific report from a grantee. We have been asked by other agencies, hi, has this grantee completed the monitoring requirement? And then it's more of a yes or no if they're in compliance with that. We don't post them online at this time, but just know that it can be a public document. Your monitoring form that you completed, we don't post that publicly. We do, because it is also a public document, we do once in a while pull some quotes from it to put into our reports. Excuse me. And in those reports, though, we remove who you are. So we don't say the specific grantee. We would say advanced manufacturing grantee or advanced manufacturing dual trainee. So we do pull information from there for our reports, but we don't attach an identifier on there. Okay, so this monitoring report, general information at the top. Want to know who's attending, so we write in that information. Have some information about the fiscal year, contract number, amounts. And then we make sure we always state in here, the industry and occupation. And then how we kind of tailor this report is we focus on a few outcomes. We have 5 of them. Progress dual trainees made towards related instruction on the job training competency goals, sustainability of dual training model, benefits of the dual training program and dual training grant for grantee, recruitment and retention of dual trainees, and feedback from dual trainees. Hold on, gonna take a drink of water real quick. And then what we do is we break down those 5 outcomes and we actually relate it back to our grantee and give maybe a 1 to max 3 sentence summary of it. We want to keep everything really high level for this report. So on how they're progressing through related instruction, we say dual trainees are progressing through the related instruction coursework and on-the-job training tasks. This cohort of dual trainees is the first to participate in a 2-year as opposed to a 1-year community health worker program. Feedback from prior dual trainees led to the change in the program timeline. Very high level. We go ahead and we mention a couple of the challenges. So some of the big challenges that you experience, we mention. We talk about the best practices, any other topics you discussed. And then here's that reconciliation I talked about earlier. Very high level. Grant period, grant award, payments made. If that matches your records, we're good to go. And then we write a conclusion, and our conclusion is really a thank you. It highlights some of your best practices and thanking you for your administration and partnership with the program. And that is the final monitoring report that is available at the very end of this process. Last year, we were a bit delayed on finalizing these monitoring reports. This year, we hopefully have a really good plan to make sure we are getting these to you in a timely fashion. I am going to stop sharing. Questions about anything we've talked about? Sounds like we may have covered everything fairly well. If you think of questions after this presentation, you are more than welcome to email me, Dan, Kathleen. We'll make sure we get you the answers you need. We're excited to start the monitoring process and looking forward to hearing about all the great work that is happening through your dual training models. I will go ahead. I'm going to stop recording and we can end this session. Thank you so much for attending today.